What if the reason you feel stuck right now is not because God has forgotten you, but because He is preparing to guide you somewhere new? What if the next step you need is not found in having every answer, but in trusting the one who already knows the way? Maybe you woke up this morning with questions you cannot answer. Maybe you are standing at a crossroads wondering which direction to take. Maybe you have been asking God, Lord, what should I do next? Because life can become overwhelming when there are so many voices telling you what to choose. Everywhere we look, there is advice. There are opinions online. There are people telling us what success should look like. There are messages telling us who we should become. And sometimes, in all the noise, we forget to listen to the one who created us. Father, today we come before you asking for your guidance. Not just guidance for the big decisions, but guidance for the small steps we take every day. Guide our thoughts. Guide our choices. Guide our conversations. Guide our hearts. Because we know that when you lead us, we do not have to walk through life alone. Lord, help us release the pressure of trying to figure everything out by ourselves. Help us stop believing that we must have the entire plan before we take the first step. Your word reminds us that you direct the paths of those who trust you. So today, we choose trust. We choose surrender. We choose to believe that your way is better than our own. Think about Abraham. Before he became known as a man of great faith, he was simply someone who heard God call him into the unknown. God told Abraham to leave his country, his relatives, and the familiar place he called home. But God did not give him every detail of the journey ahead. He gave him a promise. Imagine what that moment must have felt like. Packing up your belongings without knowing exactly where you are going. Leaving behind everything comfortable and familiar. Walking away from what you understand and stepping into what only God understands. Abraham had to trust God's direction more than his own understanding. He did not have a map showing every turn. He did not know every challenge he would face. He did not know every blessing waiting for him. But he knew one thing. God was leading him. And sometimes that is all we need to know. Now let's look at your journey. Maybe you are in a season where you do not know what comes next. Maybe you are thinking about making a major life decision. Maybe you are wondering if you should move forward or stay where you are. Maybe you are entering a new season and you feel uncertain about what is ahead. In 2026, it is easy to feel like everyone else has their life figured out. You open your phone and see people announcing new beginnings, new achievements, and new adventures. But behind many smiles are people asking the same questions you are asking. Am I making the right choice? Am I where God wants me to be? Did I miss my opportunity? Father, remind us today that our lives are not controlled by comparison. We do not need to rush because someone else appears ahead of us. We do not need to panic because our timeline looks different. Abraham was not blessed because he knew every step. He was blessed because he trusted the God who did. Lord, give us that same faith. When we cannot see the entire road, help us trust the next step. When we do not understand the season we are in, help us remember that you are still guiding us. Because the God who led Abraham into the unknown is still leading his children today. Just sit with that for a moment. You may not know every detail of tomorrow, but you can know the one who holds tomorrow. Father, place peace in every heart that feels uncertain today. Remove the anxiety that comes from trying to control everything. Teach us to walk by faith, one step at a time. Father, thank you for reminding us that your guidance does not always come with a complete explanation. Sometimes you guide us one step at a time. Sometimes you reveal the path only after we have trusted you enough to move forward. Lord, help us remember that a season of uncertainty does not mean a season without purpose. You are working even when we cannot see the full picture. Think about Moses. Before Moses became the leader who delivered God's people, he spent years in a quiet wilderness. His life did not unfold the way he expected. At one point, Moses was living in the palace of Egypt. He had access to comfort, education, and influence. But after a difficult mistake, his entire life changed. He went from a place of privilege to a place of isolation. From being surrounded by people to living in the quietness of the desert. From knowing what his life looked like to wondering what his future would become. Imagine those years. The endless desert landscape stretching in every direction. The heat of the sun during the day. The silence of the nights. The questions that may have filled his mind. God, did you forget about me? Was my purpose finished? Did I miss what you created me to do? But Moses did not realize that the wilderness was not the end of his story. It was preparation. God was shaping his character before giving him a greater assignment. God was teaching him patience before asking him to lead millions of people. God was developing his dependence before showing him his purpose. The wilderness was not wasted. Now let's look at your wilderness. Maybe you are in a season that feels slower than you expected. Maybe life did not happen according to the timeline you imagined. Maybe you thought you would be further along by now. For years, many people carry the quiet pressure of comparison. You see someone else's success online and wonder why your journey looks different. You see someone celebrating a new chapter while you feel like you are still waiting for yours to begin. Maybe you are rebuilding after a difficult year. Maybe you are learning who you are after a major life change. Maybe you are caring for others and wondering when God will make room for your own dreams again. Father, remind us that slow does not mean forgotten. Waiting does not mean abandoned. Preparation does not mean punishment. Moses spent years in the wilderness before God called him back into purpose. The same God who met Moses in the desert can meet us in our quiet seasons. Lord, help us stop running from the seasons you are using to grow us. Help us see that you are developing things inside us that cannot be rushed. Because sometimes before God changes our location, He changes our heart. Before He opens a new door, He prepares us to walk through it. Think about Samuel. Samuel was a young boy serving in the house of God when he heard a voice calling his name. At first, Samuel did not recognize that it was God speaking. He thought it was Eli calling him. 3 times Samuel heard his name. 3 times he went to Eli asking what he needed. Finally, Eli understood that God was calling Samuel. He told him, "If he calls you again, say, 'Speak, Lord, for your servant is listening.'" And Samuel learned something important. God's voice was worth recognizing. Now we live in a world filled with noise, notifications, opinions, endless advice. Everyone has something to say about how you should live your life. But not every voice deserves your attention. Now let's look at your heart. Maybe you have been feeling confused because you have listened to so many voices that you no longer know which direction is right. Maybe fear has been louder than faith. Maybe other people's expectations have become louder than God's purpose for you. Father, teach us to recognize your voice. Quiet the distractions that pull us away from you. Help us create space to hear your wisdom. Give us the patience to listen before we act. Give us the courage to follow you even when your direction looks different from what others expect. Because when God guides our steps, we do not have to be controlled by confusion. We do not have to be ruled by fear. We can walk forward knowing that the shepherd who leads us also protects us. Lord, today we surrender our plans to you. Guide our decisions. Guide our relationships. Guide our future. Help us say with Samuel, "Speak, Lord, I am listening." Father, thank you for reminding us that your voice is still speaking today. Even in a world full of distractions, you know how to lead us. Even when we feel uncertain, you know exactly where we need to go. Lord, help us remember that your guidance is not just about reaching a destination. Your guidance is about becoming the person you created us to be along the way. Think about Mary, the mother of Jesus. Before Mary became part of the greatest story ever told, she was a young woman living an ordinary life. She had plans. She had expectations. She had a future she probably imagined would unfold in a certain way. But then God interrupted her plans with a purpose greater than she could have imagined. An angel appeared and told Mary that she would give birth to Jesus. This was not a simple change of plans. This would change everything about her life. Imagine the emotion she must have felt. The questions. The uncertainty. The fear of what people would think. Mary could have focused only on what she might lose. She could have focused on the difficulty ahead. She could have allowed fear to stop her from saying yes to God. But Mary responded with surrender. She said, "Let it be to me according to your word." She trusted God's plan even when she did not know every detail. Mary teaches us something powerful. God's guidance will not always lead us down the easiest path, but it will always lead us toward His purpose. Now let's look at your life. Maybe God is guiding you through a season you did not expect. Maybe your plans changed suddenly. Maybe something you thought would happen did not happen the way you imagined. Maybe you are learning to accept a new chapter you never planned for. A relationship changed. A family responsibility increased. A dream took longer than expected. Many people are carrying invisible changes. They are adapting to new seasons. They are learning how to move forward after unexpected circumstances. They are trying to trust God when life does not look like the picture they had in their mind. Father, help us have the faith of Mary. Help us surrender our plans when your plans are greater. Help us trust that a change in direction does not mean a loss of purpose. Sometimes the path we would never choose is the path where you reveal yourself the most. Sometimes the unexpected chapter becomes the chapter that changes everything. Lord, teach us not to fight every change. Teach us to ask, God, what are you trying to show me in this season? Because your guidance is not always about making our lives predictable. Your guidance is about making our lives purposeful. Think about Philip the evangelist. Philip was experiencing a powerful season of ministry. People were being helped. Lives were being changed. Then God told Philip to leave and go to a desert road. Imagine that moment. Leaving a place where you were seeing success. Walking toward a place that seemed empty. Going somewhere without knowing why. But Philip obeyed. And on that road, God had prepared a divine appointment. Philip met an Ethiopian official who was searching for understanding. Because Philip followed God's direction, he was in the right place at the right time to make an eternal difference. The desert road looked like a detour, but it was actually God's assignment. Now let's look at your steps. Maybe you are questioning why God moved you away from something familiar. Maybe you are wondering why a door closed. Maybe you do not understand why your path looks different from everyone else's. But what feels like a detour may actually be direction. The road that feels lonely may be the road where God wants to meet you. The season that feels uncertain may be the season where He prepares something new. Father, help us trust You when You redirect our steps. When You close one door, help us believe You are guiding us toward another. When You ask us to move, give us courage to obey. Help us stop measuring our progress only by what we can see. Because You see what we cannot see. You know the conversations we have not had yet. You know the opportunities we have not discovered yet. You know the blessings waiting on the other side of obedience. Lord, today we place our steps in Your hands. Order our path. Direct our decisions. Lead us where You want us to go. Because we know that Your guidance is not meant to restrict us. Your guidance is meant to protect us, prepare us, and position us for Your purpose. Father, thank You for showing us that every step matters when we walk with You. Thank You that we do not have to have a perfect plan when we have a faithful God leading us. Lord, today we surrender our need to control every detail. We surrender the pressure of having everything figured out. We surrender the fear that comes when the future feels uncertain. Because You already know the road ahead. You already know the places where we will need strength. You already know the moments where we will need wisdom. You already know the blessings that are waiting along the path You have prepared. Father, I pray for the person listening today who feels lost. The person who has been asking, God, what should I do next? Maybe they are trying to make a decision that could change their future. Maybe they are trying to rebuild after a season that left them confused. Maybe they are standing in a place where every option feels uncertain. Lord, remind them that confusion is not their identity. Fear is not their leader. The opinions of others do not determine their destiny. You are the one who orders their steps. Think about Solomon. When Solomon became king, he faced a responsibility much greater than himself. He was not asking God for wealth or power. He asked God for wisdom. Solomon understood something important. A person can have opportunities and still make wrong choices without wisdom. He knew that leading well required more than ability. He needed God's direction. And God honored that request. Now let's look at your decisions. Every day you make choices that shape your future. The words you speak. The people you allow close to your heart. The habits you build. The way you respond when life becomes difficult. We have access to more information than any generation before us. But information is not the same as wisdom. You can search thousands of answers online and still feel unsure inside. You can hear hundreds of opinions and still need God's voice to guide you. Father, give us wisdom like Solomon. Help us not only ask, "What do I want?" Help us ask, "Lord, what is your will for my life?" Give us wisdom before we make decisions. Give us patience before we respond. Give us discernment before we choose our direction. Because one decision guided by you can change the course of our lives. Now let's pause and reflect. What area of your life needs God's guidance today? Is it your family? Your relationships? Your personal growth? Your spiritual life? Whatever it is, God is not distant from your questions. He is not annoyed by your need for direction. He invites you to bring everything to Him. Father, we come to you with open hearts. Teach us to recognize when you are opening a door. Teach us to recognize when you are protecting us by closing one. Teach us to recognize when you are asking us to wait. Because waiting is also part of your guidance. Lord, help us not rush into places you have not called us to enter. Help us not chase things simply because they look good from the outside. Help us follow the path that brings us closer to you. Father, I pray for someone who feels behind in life. They look at their age, their circumstances, or their past choices and wonder if they missed their moment. Remind them that you are not limited by time. You can redeem years. You can restore purpose. You can guide someone from where they are into where you are calling them to be. Moses thought his opportunity was over. Abraham stepped forward without knowing every detail. Mary surrendered her plans to God's purpose. Philip followed a direction that did not make sense at first. And you used every one of them. Lord, use us too. Guide our steps. Shape our hearts. Lead us into the purpose you created for us. Today, we declare that we do not walk alone. God goes before me. God walks beside me. God strengthens me. God guides my steps. Father, thank you for guiding us through every season of life. Thank you that our future is not dependent only on our ability to see what is ahead. Our future is secure because you already know the way. Lord, today we choose to walk with confidence, not because we have every answer, but because we trust the one who leads us. We may not know every turn. We may not understand every delay. We may not see every reason behind the changes in our lives. But we know this. You are faithful. Father, I pray for the person who feels uncertain about their next step. The person who is carrying questions they have not shared with anyone else. The person lying awake at night replaying decisions and wondering if they are choosing the right path. Bring them peace today. Remind them that they do not have to carry the weight of the future alone. You are already in tomorrow. The place we are afraid to enter is a place you have already prepared for us. Father, help us trust your timing. When we feel delayed, remind us that you are developing us. When we feel lost, remind us that you are leading us. When we feel forgotten, remind us that you have never taken your eyes off us. Now I want you to speak these declarations over your life today. Speak them slowly. Receive them with faith. God is ordering my steps. God is directing my path. God is giving me wisdom for every decision I face. I do not have to fear the future because God is already there. I will not be controlled by confusion. I will not be led by fear. I will be guided by faith. God's plan for my life is greater than my own understanding. God is closing the doors that are not meant for me. God is opening the doors that align with His purpose. God is preparing me for what He has prepared for me. Father, let these declarations become rooted in our hearts. When doubt comes, remind us of your faithfulness. When fear comes, remind us of your presence. When we feel unsure, remind us that your wisdom is greater than our understanding. Lord, teach us to recognize your guidance in the ordinary moments. Sometimes we look for huge signs while you are quietly directing us through small steps. A conversation that gives us clarity. A closed door that protects us. A new opportunity that arrives at the right time. A moment of peace that confirms we are walking in the right direction. Father, help us become sensitive to your leading. Help us slow down enough to listen. Help us quiet the voices around us so we can recognize your voice within us. Because your guidance brings peace. Your guidance brings wisdom. Your guidance brings us closer to the person you created us to become. Before we end this prayer, I want you to remember something today. You are not walking through life randomly. You are not forgotten. You are not abandoned in the middle of your questions. The same God who guided Abraham into a promise. The same God who prepared Moses in the wilderness. The same God who called Samuel to hear his voice. The same God who guided Mary through an unexpected assignment. The same God who directed Philip to the right place at the right time is the same God guiding you today. Father, I stand in agreement with every person listening right now. May they walk into this day with confidence. May they recognize your direction. May they have peace about the steps ahead. Let them know that even when they cannot see the entire road, they are being led by the one who can. If this prayer spoke to your heart today, leave a comment and share what area of your life you are asking God to guide. Maybe it is a decision. Maybe it is a relationship. Maybe it is a new season you are stepping into. Your prayer may encourage someone else who is walking through the same uncertainty. Together, we can build a community where people seek God, support one another, and walk by faith. If you are new to Gracey Prayers, subscribe and join us as we begin each day seeking God's wisdom, peace, and direction. Today, remember this. You do not need to know every step. You only need to trust the one who is leading you. God is ahead of you. God is beside you. God is guiding you. Walk into this day knowing your steps are ordered by Him. Thank you for praying with Gracey Prayers today. May God's presence go before you, walk beside you, and remain with you throughout this entire day. In Jesus' name. Amen.